I gotta say, I had a blast with this exclusive chance to test fire the plastic ammo BULLPUP next generation squad weapon bid from True Velocity Lone Star Future Weapons General Dynamics. This is their entry in the competition to replace the US Army's legacy small arms weapons that have been around for over 5 decades. There are 2 other major firearms manufacturers in the running, and a lot is at stake here with millions of dollars of sweet Pentagon money raining down onto whoever ultimately wins this bid. True Velocity gave me the chance to test fire their civilian commercial version of the composite cased 6.8mm ammo, which I'm told is very similar to the military version, but not exactly the same. I guess they were worried I'd yoink some of their ammo and reverse engineer it myself, but the joke's on them. I could never do that. I'm a complete dummy. My initial thoughts when I first picked up the gun was how nice it felt to shoulder and fire. It is a very short overall compact length, which I understand is shorter than an M4. This would definitely make close quarters urban combat easy. The recoil mitigation system eats up a lot of that felt recoil. I was able to full send, mag dump, full auto, and still control the recoil, which I never thought I could do with a round as powerful as the 6.8x51. The way it works is they have a free floating barrel which actually moves backwards with each shot and then back into place. It's a very well balanced system, and I didn't feel fatigued holding it out in front of me and firing while walking for extended periods of time. The short soda can looking suppressor also helps minimize overall length. BULLPUP designs feel like you're holding all the weight closer to your center of gravity, which helps it feel like it doesn't weigh a lot. The drawback to using this low recoil reciprocating barrel system is that it could potentially decrease the accuracy because the barrel is moving around. You have to keep in mind though that the True Velocity Lone Star NGSW submission is a system, which means the accuracy can be increased in other parts of the weapon system, like with the plastic ammo increasing velocity. The other major surprise was when I first picked up the plastic composite cased ammo. This is the most revolutionary part of the entire bid because the ammo felt really noticeably lighter weight. I held a 20 round 6.8 brass ammo magazine versus a 6.8 plastic ammo magazine, and I felt like I was witnessing an actual paradigm shift in the way firearms work. If the ammo actually works and passes all of the Army's tests, then innovations like that within the military world haven't happened since the turn of the last century. The shell casings are even cool to the touch after you fire it, and so is the chamber of the gun, which sounds like a cool party trick but actually has some real-world firing advantages that we'll get into later in the video. True Velocity felt the only way for them to go with their plastic ammo was with the BULLPUP design, which gives them a longer barrel, I'm guessing around 20 inches. They thought it was the best way for them to reach the muzzle velocity requirements created by the Army. The commercial version of the 6.8 polymer cased ammo can reach around 3,000 feet per second out of the NGSW. The reason for the high velocity requirements is to defeat near-peer body armor. One of the things that stuck out to me about the True Velocity is their culture. Walking through their facilities, I got a clear startup, close-knit family vibe out of the company. They began as deer hunters trying to develop a lightweight hunting cartridge, and they quickly shifted into the mission of creating for defense contracting. This happened after some special forces teams expressed interest in the weight savings offered by the ammo. It basically allows troops to carry like 3 extra magazines on their kit for the same weight as brass ammo. Their company slogan is to give America's warfighters an unfair advantage, which is a take on the Army's own strategy of never wanting to go into a fair fight. Some troops have said that BULLPUPs are a more awkward reload than traditional firearms. Usually that's coming from troops that learned on traditional firearms. Personally for me, I didn't find slamming the magazine into the back instead of the front to be that big of a difference. And you have to remember, this gun is meant for the next generation of soldiers who probably never even fired a traditional gun before heading off to boot camp. They'll probably be training on this gun on TikTok, so I don't understand the youth, I'll admit it. The magazine release is in a very familiar spot right next to the pointer finger in front of the trigger, which operates like a lever instead of a button, which I really liked. The bolt release is a simple block sliding mechanism that looks alien compared to the M16 release, but it's very intuitive to operate, even easier than traditional firearms, I'd say. The fire selector is right above the trigger, and I kind of had to look and make sure that it was in the right position instead of feeling it out right, so the firing selector is a little harder for me to figure out. The charging handle is located at the front of the barrel. All controls are ambidextrous on both sides, and with a few quick changes to the chamber, you can eject rounds out of either side for lefty shooting. The trigger pull on the bullpup isn't as smooth as with traditional firearms. It's more of a blunt pull than a refined move. It took me a minute to get used to the feel, but for conventional mass forces, I don't see that being a problem. Not sure how that would affect accuracy out at ranges of like 800 meters though. Even though, yeah, it's hard to teach an old dog like me new tricks, I will say that by the end of the 3 hours with the bullpup, I was already way more comfortable and I felt like I'd learned to ride like a new bicycle. I posted a short clip of me firing the rifle on my Instagram @CappyArmy, and you guys had some very insightful points. The real info is always in the comments. So someone wrote, "I love the M16 M4 platform. I carried it in one form or another for 25 years. The bullpup has its place, and with wanting to go to a larger round but maintain a compact rifle, it might fit the bill." Another person wrote, "It looks like it has more recoil than the 6.8 SPC, which I'm really glad that they brought that point up, because I think a lot of people were confused by this. The 6.8 SPC is a much smaller and totally different round than the military's 6.8 by 51mm. That's what we're talking about here. So comparing the recoil of the two will be very different, and so too will the effects of the on target and the ballistics. Before we get into the key plastic ammo information, I want to point out that this True Velocity bid doesn't have a belt-fed option for the M249 replacement. The ammo is backwards compatible though. So with the M240, for instance, you could do a simple barrel swap and you can turn the M240 machine gun into a 6.8mm polymer cased firing gun.
I guess we're gonna have to find something else to say instead of brass to the grass. Plastic to the ground?
If you're watching me shoot right now and you think I look like an off-brand, knockoff version of somebody cosplaying as an operator, then you're absolutely right. Listen, I'm just having some fun here. Can I have some fun?
According to True Velocity, they're able to manipulate the construction of the polymer casing in ways that you could physically never do with brass ammo. So by way of example, you could change that internal geometry of the round to improve ballistic efficiency and increase the muzzle velocity by another 200 or 300 feet per second just by playing with the shape of the casing. Commercial version of the round I tested was sending a 135 grain Sierra Match King out of the muzzle at just under 3,000 feet per second, while generating only 60,315 PSI in chamber pressure. This makes it safe, decreases recoil, and reduces the signature of the gun. It's also worth noting that the standard deviation in muzzle velocity of these rounds came in around 12 feet per second. Here's something that I learned that I thought was crazy. When firing traditional brass casings, a significant amount of that energy created by igniting the gunpowder is wasted as heat transferred to the brass case. Polymer, on the other hand, is an insulator, which means more energy can be used to push the projectile and less gunpowder is required to reach those same target velocities. So they're using 10% less gunpowder to get the same velocity.
What? It's cold, steel cold.
The 6.8 is about the same weight as the much smaller 5.56 brass ammo. Another way to say this is that it's 30% lighter than comparable sized ammo like the 7.62 by 51mm. This also has value when you think about cost savings for logistics of shipping ammo around the world, or putting this ammo on helicopters. Instead of brass casings, you save a lot more weight. My first question for the product managers at True Velocity was to address the inner skeptic in me. What do you want? I'm a skeptical person. I'm from New York, Long Island, all right? I don't believe anything anyone says to me. So I asked, why is that polymer cased ammo ready to go mainstream now? What's different today compared to 30 or 40 years ago? And they gave me a really good answer. They said they molded through the flash hole and put a tiny copper washer in the primer pocket to protect the polymer. For what it's worth, they also patented that little nuance, so don't go trying that at home unless you want to hear from their lawyers. I don't know, I'm not a scientist. What I can say is I felt it in my hands, I fired it, and it worked according to my eyes. If that isn't enough evidence for you, then you should know that the company is already shipping their plastic ammo to military forces around the world. So the only real question is, why haven't we seen this plastic composite ammo in any of the Call of Duty Future Warfare games? Major blindside, if you ask me. So I want to say thank you to all of you viewers, because I never would have had this opportunity to test fire these next generation weapons if it weren't for all of you liking and subscribing to these videos. And this has been a ton of fun for me, and I really appreciate that you all gave me this chance to serve you with this information. I know you were hoping I would be able to test fire the third and final bid, Textron, but they got back to me and they said no go. What are you hiding, Textron? No, I'm just kidding. They probably just didn't want me making lame jokes about their classy weapon. Coming up soon, we have more videos with new details on my experience firing the Sig Sauer NGSW belt-fed machine guns. Follow me at Cappy Army for those updates. I'm your host, Chris Cappy from Task and Purpose. See you next week.